The most dangerous pandemic in human history isn't a virus. It's poor thinking. It's infected billions with the belief that trading time for money is the path to wealth, that working harder is the answer, that sacrifice and struggle are noble pursuits. This mental virus has created a world where people pride themselves on their exhaustion, brag about their long hours, and wear their stress like a badge of honor. But here's the brutal truth. If hard work was the answer, every construction worker would be a millionaire. If long hours led to wealth, every taxi driver would be rich. Money never sleeps, but neither does opportunity. Right now, somewhere in this world, someone with less education, fewer connections, and more obstacles than you is building wealth. They're not working harder than you. They're not putting in more hours than you. They're thinking differently than you. That's what separates the wealthy from everyone else, not their actions, but their thoughts, not their circumstances, but their decisions, not their background, but their mindset. Let me tell you about two street vendors selling the exact same product in the exact same location at the exact same time. One thinks like an employee, the other thinks like an owner. The first vendor focuses on making sales. The second vendor focuses on building systems. The first vendor works 12 hours a day. The second vendor works on finding ways to serve customers 24 hours a day without being present. Fast forward 6 months. The first vendor is still standing on that street corner. The second vendor owns 5 automated vending machines and is working on franchising their system to other entrepreneurs. Same starting point, same product, different thinking. You see, most people believe wealth comes from hard work. That's the first misconception we need to shatter. Hard work is important, but it's not the key to wealth. The world is full of hardworking poor people. The janitor who works 2 jobs works harder than most millionaires. The factory worker pulling double shifts works harder than most successful entrepreneurs. The difference isn't in the work, it's in the thinking. Rich people don't think about how to earn money. They think about how to create systems that generate money. Poor people think about working for money. Rich people think about making money work for them. Now think about water for a moment. When water flows, it creates paths. These paths become streams, then rivers, then mighty waterfalls generating power. But first, the water needs to be channeled. It needs direction. It needs systems. Money works the same way. It wants to flow. It wants to multiply. But most people try to carry it bucket by bucket, paycheck to paycheck, instead of building channels and systems to direct its flow. Here's what wealthy people understand that others don't. Every problem in this world is an opportunity in disguise. Every frustration is a potential fortune. Every inconvenience is an invitation to innovate. Think about your daily frustrations. What annoys you? What wastes your time? What problems do you wish someone would solve? Those aren't just complaints. They're potential gold mines. The wealthy don't see problems, they see unmet market needs. But here's where most people get stuck. They say, I don't have the money to start. The wealthy think differently. They ask, how can I solve this problem in a way that generates its own funding? They don't start with resources, they start with resourcefulness. A street food vendor with an employee mindset sees hungry customers and thinks about how many hours they need to work to serve them. A vendor with a wealth mindset sees hungry customers and thinks about how to create a system that serves them even when they're not there. The employee mindset asks, how much can I earn per hour? The wealth mindset asks, how can I create value that continues generating income without my constant presence? I want to ask you something. What would happen if you could never work again? How would you generate income? This isn't just a theoretical question. This is exactly how wealthy people think about every business opportunity. They don't ask, how can I do this work? They ask, how can I create a system that does this work? Think about the last time you paid for something. Was it a product or a system? When you buy a cup of coffee, you're paying for a product. When you subscribe to a streaming service, you're paying for a system. Which business model generates more wealth? Which one requires the owner's constant presence? The wealthy understand something profound about human behavior. People will pay more for convenience than for quality. They'll pay more for systems that save them time than for products that give them stuff. Time is the ultimate currency, and systems that give people back their time are the ultimate wealth generators. But here's what stops most people from thinking this way. They're too busy working to step back and think. They're too focused on the immediate to see the potential. They're too caught up in earning to focus on learning. The wealthy set aside time specifically for thinking. They understand that the quality of their thinking determines the quality of their results. They know that 1 hour of effective thinking can be worth more than a month of hard work. Look at your calendar right now. How much time did you schedule for thinking this week? Not working, not meeting, not doing, just thinking. If the answer is none, you're thinking like an employee, not like someone who creates wealth. Wealthy people don't just think about making money. They think about creating value. They understand that money is just a byproduct of value creation. The more value you create for others, the more wealth you can generate for yourself. But here's the key. Value doesn't always mean working harder. Sometimes it means thinking smarter. Sometimes it means seeing connections that others miss. Sometimes it means questioning assumptions that others accept. Think about transportation for a moment. Taxi drivers work hard. They put in long hours. They deal with traffic, weather, and difficult customers. Now think about ride-sharing apps. They don't own cars. They don't employ drivers. They created a system that connects people who need rides with people who can provide them. Same basic service. Transportation, completely different thinking. One requires constant hard work. The other created a system that generates wealth through facilitating connections. This is how the wealthy think. They don't ask, how can I do this work? They ask, how can I create a system that makes this work unnecessary? They don't think about trading time for money. They think about creating systems that generate money while saving people time. But let's be clear about something. This kind of thinking isn't easy. It's not comfortable. It requires questioning everything you've been taught about work, money, and success. It requires being willing to look foolish, to fail, to be wrong, to start over. The wealthy aren't afraid of being wrong. They're afraid of staying wrong. They're not afraid of failing. They're afraid of not learning from failure. They're not afraid of looking foolish. They're afraid of staying stuck in old thinking patterns that keep them from growing. Most people live in a world of scarcity thinking. They believe there's only so much to go around. They think if someone else succeeds, it somehow diminishes their own chances of success. The wealthy live in a world of abundance thinking. They understand that value creation has no limits, that opportunity is infinite, that innovation expands possibilities for everyone. Think about knowledge for a moment. When I share knowledge with you, do I have less? When you learn something new, does someone else lose that knowledge? Of course not. Knowledge multiplies when shared. Wealth works the same way. The wealthy understand that creating value for others doesn't diminish their own wealth. It enhances it. But here's what most people don't understand about value creation. It's not about working harder to create more value. It's about thinking differently to create different kinds of value. Consider two people selling umbrellas. One stands on the street corner when it rains, working hard to make sales. The other creates a system that automatically texts people weather forecasts and offers umbrella delivery before the rain starts. Who creates more value? Who generates more wealth? Who works harder? The wealthy understand that anticipating needs is more valuable than reacting to them. They know that solving problems before they occur is more profitable than solving them after they become urgent. They think ahead while others think about now. What problems will your customers have tomorrow that they don't even know about today? What solutions can you create now for problems that haven't yet become apparent? This is how the wealthy think. They don't just solve current problems. They anticipate and prepare for future ones. Think about insurance. It wasn't created by someone working harder. It was created by someone thinking differently about risk and security. Think about subscription services. They weren't created by someone working harder. They were created by someone thinking differently about convenience and consistent revenue. Wealthy understand something profound about human nature. People don't just pay for products or services. They pay for peace of mind. They pay for convenience. They pay for status. They pay for belonging. They pay for stories. They can tell themselves about themselves. This understanding leads to a completely different way of thinking about business and wealth creation. Instead of asking, what can I sell? They ask, what story can I help people tell themselves? Instead of asking, how can I make this cheaper? They ask, how can I make this more meaningful? A poor person thinks about cutting costs. A wealthy person thinks about increasing value. A poor person thinks about competing on price. A wealthy person thinks about competing on experience. A poor person thinks about making sales. A wealthy person thinks about building relationships. But here's something crucial about wealthy thinking. It's not just about business strategies. It's about life strategies. The same principles that create financial wealth also create life wealth, rich experiences, deep relationships, meaningful achievements. Think about time for a moment. Poor thinking sees time as something to fill. Wealthy thinking sees time as something to invest. Poor thinking tries to save time. Wealthy thinking tries to leverage time. Poor thinking asks, how can I get this done faster? Wealthy thinking asks, should this be done at all? The wealthy understand that the highest leverage activity they can engage in is thinking. They know that 1 hour of clear, focused thinking can save hundreds of hours of misdirected action. They understand that the quality of their thinking determines the quality of their results. But here's what stops most people from thinking this way. They're addicted to busyness. They mistake activity for achievement. They confuse motion with progress. They think if they're not doing something, they're not being productive. The wealthy know better. They understand that sometimes the most productive thing you can do is nothing. Sometimes the best action is no action. Sometimes the best way to solve a problem is to realize it doesn't need to be solved at all. Think about the last time you were really busy. Were you creating value, or were you just creating activity? Were you moving forward, or were you just moving? Were you being productive, or were you just being busy? The wealthy don't just think differently about money. They think differently about everything. They think differently about time, about relationships, about problems, about opportunities. They think differently about failure and success. Poor thinking sees failure as something to avoid. Wealthy thinking sees failure as feedback. Poor thinking sees problems as obstacles. Wealthy thinking sees problems as opportunities. Poor thinking sees change as a threat. Wealthy thinking sees change as a chance to create new value. Let me tell you about two retail store owners during an economic downturn. One thought like a poor person, focused on cutting costs, reducing inventory, laying off staff. The other thought like a wealthy person, focused on finding new opportunities, creating new value, strengthening relationships with customers. The first owner survived the downturn, but emerged weaker. The second owner not only survived, but thrived because they understood something fundamental. Times of change are times of opportunity. Times of crisis are times of possibility. Times of scarcity are times to create new value. But here's what you need to understand about wealthy thinking. It's not just about seeing opportunities, it's about being prepared to act on them. The wealthy don't just think differently, they prepare differently. They position themselves differently. They structure their lives differently. Think about your current position. Are you positioned to take advantage of opportunities, or are you just positioned to survive? Are you structured to create wealth, or are you structured to earn income? Are you prepared to act on opportunities, or are you just prepared to keep doing what you've always done? The wealthy understand that preparation is more important than action. They know that being ready to act is more important than acting rashly. They understand that positioning is more important than effort. Think about a surfer for a moment. The success of a ride isn't determined by how hard they paddle. It's determined by where they position themselves before the wave comes. Wealth works the same way. It's not about how hard you work. It's about how you position yourself before opportunities arise. The difference between wealth and poverty isn't found in your wallet. It's found in your mind. Right now, in this moment, you're thinking thoughts that are either creating wealth or preventing it. You're holding beliefs that are either building your future or limiting it. Think about fear for a moment. Poor thinking fears losing money. Wealthy thinking fears losing opportunity. Poor thinking fears failure. Wealthy thinking fears mediocrity. Poor thinking fears change. Wealthy thinking fears stagnation. Let me tell you about two investors during a market downturn. The first, thinking with a scarcity mindset, saw only danger and loss. The second, thinking with an abundance mindset, saw opportunities to acquire valuable assets at discounted prices. A market, same conditions, different thinking, dramatically different results. The wealthy understand something profound about opportunity. It wears overalls and looks like work. It doesn't announce itself with fanfare. It doesn't arrive in a neat package. It shows up disguised as problems, wrapped in challenges, hidden in plain sight. But here's what separates wealthy thinking from poor thinking. When it comes to opportunity, poor thinking asks, what could go wrong? Wealthy thinking asks, what could go right? Poor thinking looks for reasons why something won't work. Wealthy thinking looks for ways to make something work. Think about your response to new ideas. When you hear about a new opportunity, what's your first thought? Is it about potential problems or potential possibilities? Is it about what could go wrong or what could go right? Your instinctive response reveals your wealth mindset or lack thereof. The wealthy have mastered the art of productive questioning. Instead of asking, can I afford this? They ask, how can I afford this? Instead of asking, well, why is this happening to me? They ask, what can I learn from this? Instead of asking, what if I fail? They ask, what if I succeed? These questions aren't just rhetorical. They're tools for transforming thinking. They're instruments for shifting perspective. They're devices for creating possibility where others see only problems. Think about technology for a moment. When new technology emerges, poor thinking sees threat. Threat to jobs, threat to existing businesses, threat to the familiar. Wealthy thinking sees opportunity. Opportunity to solve problems in new ways. Opportunity to create new value. Opportunity to serve people better. The wealthy understand that every advance in technology, every shift in the market, every change in consumer behavior creates new opportunities for wealth creation. They don't resist change, they ride it. They don't fight trends. They find ways to serve the new needs those trends create. Here's what most people miss about wealthy thinking. It's not just about seeing opportunity, it's about being ready to act on it. The wealthy develop their knowledge, build their networks, and position their resources so they can move quickly when opportunity appears. Think about your current knowledge base. Are you learning things that will be valuable tomorrow, or are you just maintaining skills that were valuable yesterday? Are you building relationships that will open future doors, or are you just maintaining connections that serve past needs? The wealthy understand that knowledge isn't just power. It's potential wealth. They don't just learn for learning's sake. They learn strategically. They don't just network. They build relationships with purpose. They don't just save resources. They position them for opportunity. What would you do differently if you knew with absolute certainty that you would succeed? How would you think differently if you knew failure was impossible? What risk would you take if you knew they would pay off? Now here's the wealthy perspective on those questions. They act as if success is certain. While being prepared for temporary setbacks, they think as if failure is impossible while learning from every mistake. They take calculated risks, knowing that the biggest risk is not taking any risks at all. The wealthy understand something profound about risks. The biggest risk isn't losing money. It's losing time. It's staying in situations that don't serve your growth. It's thinking small when you could be thinking big. It's working hard at the wrong things instead of working smart at the right things. Think about your current situation. Are you risking enough? Are you thinking big enough? Are you playing to win, or are you playing not to lose? Your answer reveals your wealth mindset or your poverty mindset. But here's the most important thing about wealthy think. It's not a fixed trade. It's not something you're born with. It's not something reserved for a special few. It's a set of habits, perspectives, and beliefs that can be learned, practiced, and mastered. The wealthy aren't different because they have money. They have money because they're different. They think differently. They perceive differently. They act differently. And everything you've heard today is something they had to learn, just like you're learning it now. Think about your own thinking for a moment. How many wealth-creating thoughts have you had today? How many poverty-maintaining thoughts have you had? How many opportunities have you seen? How many have you missed because you weren't thinking in the right way? The wealthy understand that every day presents multiple opportunities for wealth creation. Every conversation could lead to a valuable connection. Every problem could become a profitable solution. Every setback could contain the seeds of greater success. It's not about positive thinking. It's about positive thinking. It's about productive thinking. It's not about ignoring problems. It's about seeing problems as opportunities. It's not about denying reality. It's about creating new realities. Right now you have everything you need to begin thinking like the wealthy. You have a mind capable of seeing opportunities. You have creativity capable of solving problems. You have potential waiting to be unleashed. The question isn't whether you can think like the wealthy. The question is whether you will. The question isn't whether you can create wealth. The question is whether you're ready to think in ways that create wealth. The difference between wealth and poverty isn't in circumstances. It's in thinking. It's not what happens to you. It's in how you think about what happens to you. It's not in what you have. It's in how you think about what you have and what you can create. Your next thought could be the one that changes everything. Your next decision could be the one that sets you on the path to wealth. Your next action, guided by new thinking, could be the one that transforms your future. The choice is yours. The time is now. The thinking starts here. There's something fascinating about time that the wealthy understand and others miss entirely. Time isn't just money. Time is leverage. And leverage, when properly understood, is the key to creating wealth without working harder. Think about a lever for a moment. With the right leverage point, a small amount of effort can move an enormous weight. The wealthy approach every aspect of life looking for these leverage points. They don't ask, how can I do more? They ask, where's the leverage point that will give me maximum results for minimum effort? Let me tell you about two business owners in the same industry. One focused on serving customers personally, priding themselves on being hands-on with every transaction. The other focused on creating systems that could serve customers automatically, even while they slept. Both cared deeply about customer service. Both wanted to deliver excellence. But one thought about effort, while the other thought about leverage. The wealthy understands something profound about leverage. The best leverage isn't physical, it's mental. It's not about working harder. It's about thinking smarter. It's about finding ways to create value once and deliver it infinitely. Think about a book author for a moment. They write the book once, but it can be read by millions. That's leverage. Think about a software developer. They write the code once, but it can serve countless users. That's leverage. Think about a system creator. They build the system once, but it can operate endlessly. That's leverage. But here's what most people miss about leverage. It's not just about creating something once and selling it many times. It's about creating ways for value to multiply without your direct involvement. It's about building systems that grow stronger and more valuable over time, even without your constant input. The wealthy don't just look for ways to make money. They look for ways to make money work for them. They don't just seek income, they seek income multiplication. They don't just want returns, they want returns on returns. What are you doing right now that will be creating value for you 5 years from now? What systems are you building that will work for you while you sleep? What leverage points are you creating that will multiply your efforts? Most people trade time for money in linear fashion. The wealthy create systems that generate money in an exponential fashion. Most people think about their next paycheck. The wealthy think about their next system. Most people focus on working harder. The wealthy focus on leveraging smarter. Think about relationships for a moment. Poor thinking sees relationships as transactions. What can I get from this person right now? Wealthy thinking sees relationships as systems. How can we create ongoing value for each other? Poor thinking focuses on immediate benefit. Wealthy thinking focuses on long-term leverage. The wealthy understand that every relationship is a potential leverage point. Every connection is a possible multiplication factor. Every interaction is an opportunity to create systems of mutual benefit that can grow over time. But here's what stops most people from thinking this. They're too focused on the immediate. They're too caught up in the urgent. They're too busy responding to what's happening now to create systems that will serve them later. Think about your current activities. How many of them are just responses to immediate demands? How many are investments in future leverage? How many are creating systems that will continue working for you long after you've moved on to other things? The wealthy have mastered the art of strategic neglect. They know what to ignore. They understand that not everything that demands attention deserves attention. They focus on creating leverage rather than responding to urgency. Let me tell you about two professionals. One spent their evenings responding to emails, always being responsive and on top of things. The other spent their evenings creating automated systems to handle routine queries, building frameworks to delegate effectively, and developing processes that could run without their constant attention. Same amount of time invested, dramatically different results. But here's what you need to understand about this kind of thinking. It's not about avoiding work. It's about ensuring that your work creates ongoing value. It's not about doing less. It's about achieving more through strategic leverage. Think about education for a moment. Poor thinking sees education as something you complete. Wealthy thinking sees education as a leverage point you continuously develop. Poor thinking focuses on getting credentials. Wealthy thinking focuses on building capabilities that create leverage. The wealthy understand that knowledge, properly leveraged, is the most powerful wealth creation tool available. But they don't just accumulate knowledge, they accumulate knowledge that creates leverage. They don't just learn. They learn things that can be turned into systems, processes, and multiplication factors. Consider your own knowledge. How much of what you know can be leveraged? How much of your expertise can be systematized? How much of your experience can be turned into processes that create value without your direct involvement? The wealthy don't just work smart. They think leveraged. They don't just seek efficiency. They seek multiplication. They don't just want to do things better. They want to do things once in ways that continue creating value indefinitely. But here's the most important thing about leverage thinking. It's not just about business or money. It's about every aspect of life. It's about finding ways to create positive impact that continues growing even when you're not actively involved. Think about legacy for a moment. Poor thinking sees legacy as what you leave behind. Wealthy thinking sees legacy as the systems you create that continue generating value for others. Poor thinking focuses on accumulation. Wealthy thinking focuses on multiplication. The wealthy understand that true wealth isn't just about having more, it's about creating systems that continue generating more, serving more, and contributing more, even beyond your direct involvement. They think in terms of legacy leverage, not just what they can achieve, but what they can set in motion. Your thinking right now is either creating leverage or limiting it. Your current activities are either building systems that will serve you in the future or just serving the demands of the present. Your choices are either creating multiplication factors or just maintaining the status quo. The question isn't whether you can create leverage. The question is whether you're thinking in ways that recognize and create leverage opportunities. The question isn't whether you can build systems. The question is whether you're ready to shift from doing everything yourself to creating systems that work for you.